So, today we will talk of production of secondary fuels. Now, for some applications the primary fuels cannot be used. For example, in the hot metal production through blast furnace, the fossil fuel cannot be used. So, for that purpose secondary fuel production is important. So, the important secondary fuels which are produced from fossil fuel, one is the coke, another is the producer gas, and third is the fuel oil. Now, all these three are called secondary fuels. Secondary fuels because they as such do not occur in the nature, they are derived or they are produced from fossil fuel, that is why we call them as secondary fuel. Now, the production of coke, is done from certain quality of the coal, that is the normally they are the bituminous variety of coal, and this process is called carbonization. Or this process is also called destructive distillation of coal. For the production of producer gas, is again done from coal, and this process is called gasification. So, in gasification the solid fuel is converted into the gaseous fuel for some applications. The production of fuel oil for certain cases is done from coal, and this process is called hydrogenation. So, from these three processes, carbonization, gasification and hydrogenation, the primary fuel can be converted into the secondary fuel, and the objective of production of secondary fuel is to meet the requirement of certain processes. Now, let us take first of all carbonization. As I have already said that carbonization is to produce coke from coal. Now, why this is required? All of you are aware that in the production of hot metal by blast furnace, coal cannot be used. Blast furnace is a counter current heat and mass exchange reactor. In this reactor, the burden which consists of iron ore, coke and limestone, it travels downward, and the upward gases flow like CO, CO2, hydrogen and nitrogen. So, in this counter current movement of burden and gases, the permeability of the bed is very important, or we can also say the permeability as created by the burden throughout the downward movement of the burden is a very important issue. If the permeability is not maintained, then the upward flowing of gases will not be able to flow smoothly and a choking will occur, and this is not required. On account of this, if fossil fuel like coal is used, then first of all coal is very brittle. Second, coal contains volatile matter. So, if you use coal in the blast furnace, expulsion of volatile matter will cause cracking of the coal. The brittleness of the coal will also cause the destruction of the coal during its downward movement, and as such the permeability in the burden cannot be maintained. Therefore, it can be very safely said that the blast furnace, it cannot work without availability of coke. That is true. So, if the hot metal production from blast furnace is to be there, then production of coke is to be there. The production of coke is very important, particularly from a steel making point of view. Around 80 to 90% of the coke which is produced is used in the blast furnace. So, let us see this process, how it is produced from coal. In fact, as I have said that the process of carbonization consists of heating of coal, out of contact of air, and this is called carbonization. Now, this can be done at low temperature as well as high temperature. Low temperature of the order of 600 to 700 degrees Celsius and high temperature of the order of 1000 to 1200 degrees Celsius. For the uses of coke of blast furnace quality, high temperature carbonization is done, because what is required is to expel as much amount of volatile matter from coal as possible, that coke will be of good quality. So, as such the high temperature carbonization is of concern to the high quality coke which is required for the blast furnace application, or you can also call a destructive distillation. Now, what does it mean? So, you imagine if we heat a coal out of contact of air, if you heat coal in presence of air, then it will combust and ash will form. That is not required. The whole objective of carbonization is to convert one type of solid fuel to another type of solid fuel. So, what we have to do? We have to retain the solid fuel after converting through the process of carbonization. So, if we heat the coal out of contact of air, then what will happen? If you imagine, and if we think that coal consists of volatile matter, fixed carbon, ash and moisture. So, if we heat out of contact of air, then the coal will be heated up, the volatile matter will be expelled, the bonds within the coal will be broken, because you know coal consists of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur. The bonds will be broken since there is no contact of air. So, internally whatever the availability of the elements are there, they will react with each other depending on their concentration. The carbon may react with O, it will form CO, oxygen amount is very less, or carbon may react with hydrogen, it may form hydrocarbons, or nitrogen may react with hydrogen, it may form NH3 or ammonia. So, this way this destructive distillation, breaking of the bonds and formation again of the bonds, that will give us the residue which we call as a coke. So, that is essentially it happens when we heat the coal out of contact of air. The volatile matter will be expelled, moisture will be expelled, and as a result of which we will be left over with the residue which we call as a coke, which will contain carbon, ash and whatever left over hydrogen, nitrogen and oxygen. So, that is what in short the process of carbonization is. You can also call it to be a destructive distillation. So, if we want to summarize this thing, so we will write that the physico-chemical changes that occur during carbonization are as follows. Physico-chemical changes during carbonization, they are as follows. You are heating coal from 25 degrees Celsius and progressively heating to 1000 or 1100 degrees Celsius. The whole objective is to expel the volatile matter of the coal, because the volatile matter, they create a lot of problems if as such it is used for a particular application. So, stage 1, primary breakdown of coal at around 700 degrees Celsius, and this primary breakdown, it yields to products like H2O, CO, CO2, H2S, aromatics, paraffins, olefins, nitrogen compounds, etc. Why this happens? Because coal, it consists of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen and sulfur. That is what the coal consists of in terms of its ultimate analysis. The organic bonds are there. So, during heating the bonds will break, and wherever what element is possible, depending on its affinity, it will react, and depending on the concentration they will react. Say carbon is a very high concentration, whereas concentration of oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen and so on, that is very less. So, accordingly the reaction will be there. Hydrogen will react with carbon, hydrogen may react with nitrogen, oxygen may react with the carbon, and like that, because no air is over there. So, these products will form, and on account of which the residue which is left after this stage 1 is called soft coke, Now, in this particular stage the coal also swells, because coal contains all sort of organic compounds, it is a plant origin. So, there are constituents which has a swelling tendency. So, because of swelling of the coal, these volatile matters in the form of the gaseous component, they will be eliminated. So, mind you, in the production of the coal there is a considerable swelling also occurs. In fact, swelling is one of the property that is desired in coal, which is suitable for conversion to coke. So, if the coal swells, then it should resolidify to get you again the solid coke, otherwise it is gone. Stage 2, say in the stage 1 you got the soft coke, but that is not useful for the blast furnace purposes. For all other purposes this coke can be used at 700 degrees Celsius, which is called low temperature carbonization. Now for blast furnace purposes you have to heat it further. So in the stage 2, say secondary thermal reaction between the liberated products and between the liberated products as they pass through the hot coke and coke oven walls So as a result of this, evolution of hydrogen and formation of aromatics and methane occurs at around 700 degrees Celsius. The formation of NH3 due to decomposition of nitrogen compound. Then the stage 3, in the stage 3, because the residue which we obtained on further heating, the further removal of the gases occurs, because all the volatile matter has not yet been expelled at around 700 degrees Celsius. So further heating 800, 900, 1000 and 1100 degrees Celsius, so more and more volatile matter will be expelled, more and more gases will be formed. So stage 3, progressive removal of hydrogen from residue and hard coke is produced. Now these 3 stages which I have written, they are in fact when you heat from 25 to 700, for example in the stage 1, the further heating and whatever happens in the further heating, that is the constitute the stage 2, and then further heating up to 1100 degrees Celsius we result in the so called hard coke, and that is being useful. Now it is important to note that during carbonization coal swells first and then resolidifies as the temperature rise, and then it is discharged from the coke oven or from the chamber and it is then cooled. The carbonization it takes around 16 to 20 hours per 22 tons of coke. So this is about the scientific aspects of carbonization. What we have seen over here, that we want to heat coal in the absence of air. That means we have to have a reaction chamber which is maintained at around 1200 to 1250 or 1300 degrees Celsius, so that coal can be heated up to that temperature required. We cannot heat the chamber by direct charging of the coal and combusting over there, it is not possible. So, what we learn from here, that the technological production of coke from coal must meet some of the requirement. First requirement that a technology must meet is indirect heating of the chamber. So, the technology of coke production some important point, though several things are needed, but what I am trying to derive, those technological concerns that are required after going through the physico-chemical changes that occurs during heating coal out of contact of air. So, the first thing that we note, that the coal should be heated indirectly. That means the chamber which you are going to construct, it cannot be heated directly, there should be. So, the first requirement is that indirect heating is required. Indirect heating of the chamber containing coke is required. That is the first and foremost important requirement of any technology. Second important thing that we can derive from whatever we have learned in the physico-chemical stages is how to accommodate the swelling which will occur during conversion of coal to coke in the reaction chamber. Because when you are charging the coal at time t is equal to 0, and during its conversion which takes hours together, imagine the coal which is in contact with the wall, it will swell very high, very large swelling will occur, it may stick to the wall, and at the end of the carbonization process you have to discharge the coke out of the reaction chamber. So, the another important issue that comes in my mind is the swelling tendency of coal, to control it. So, one has to be careful here while selecting the coal which is used for conversion of the coke, though swelling is required, but if a particular coal swells very high, then one has to blend it with a coal which is of low swelling tendency, so that an optimum swelling during the coking process is maintained. Among other technological relevances, these are, for example, discharge and charging mechanism, because the chamber is closed from all the sides. So, you have to provide the doors for charging as well as for discharging. Then, as you also note from the physico-chemical stage, that large amount of gaseous products are formed, and if we term coke as a product, then all other product we call them byproduct. So, another important issue that we have to see is the byproduct recovery. Byproduct recovery. Now, as you see from the physico-chemical stage, The byproduct could be of several types, could be of several components. It may consist of hydrogen, may consist of methane, it may consist of carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and on the top of it they are all discharged at around 1200 degrees Celsius. So, this byproduct, it not only contains sensible heat, but it also contains potential energy. So, an important aspect of technology of coke production is the byproduct recovery, and byproduct recovery in the sense of say recovery of sensible heat, and the potential energy. Because the byproduct contains hydrogen, which has a very high potential energy, methane, which also has a very high amount of potential energy, and of course carbon monoxide, ammonia, they all have the so called potential energy. So, the entire technology, if you think from conversion of coal to coke, it should not only be limited to the conversion of coal to coke, but it should be limited, or it should consider what is to be done to the product which are discharged from the reaction chamber, because the product contains a very high amount of sensible heat as well as potential energy. Also one has to think the product coke, when it is discharged from the chamber, it will also be discharged at 1200 degrees Celsius, and because you are not producing a ton of coke per day, you are producing hundreds of tons of coke per day. So, if the discharge temperature of coke is 1200, you can calculate the amount of sensible heat that the coke will have. It will have a huge amount of sensible heat. So, what is to be done, or what the technology is considering to do with the sensible heat of the product and the byproduct and the potential energy of the byproduct. So, in fact, the sensible heat of the product is also important. Sensible heat of product. Now, with the product I mean coke, rest all other are byproduct. So, while designing a technology, what we have to consider? We have to design a reaction chamber, we have to design also the byproduct recovery, we have to also see what we are going to do with this heat which is produced during conversion of coal to coke. So, how it can be done? Traditionally, coke is produced in beehive coke oven, where the byproduct recovery was not considered to be important. So, soon this beehive coke oven being replaced by the so called byproduct coke oven. Byproduct coke oven. Now, this byproduct coke oven, as the name suggests, it is an coke oven which also takes care of the byproduct. Now, a heating chamber, though I used earlier heating chamber, this you can also call coke oven, because here coke is produced, so you call coke oven. In fact, it is a reaction chamber which is heated to a very high temperature, that is why you call it as a coke oven. So, this coke oven, in fact, it is a rectangular refractory chamber It is a rectangular refractory chamber. The dimensions of the order of 15 meter, 0.4 meter, into 5 meter. It has with removable doors, with removable doors at both sides. Why? To enable the hot coke to be pushed by a ram. Now, typical say dimension of coke oven, typical dimension of a coke oven, its length, it is of the order of 13 to 15 meter, height 4.5 to 5 meter. In fact, a 7 meter tall coke oven is also in use, is also in use. Then width on average, it is a 400 millimeter, although 600 millimeter width is also in use. Then its width on coke side around 425 millimeter, and on the ram side it is 375 millimeter. Now, can you think of how this coke oven will be heated up? You cannot heat by creating heat inside the reaction chamber, because then air will be there and coal will burn and nothing will happen. How it can be burned? How a high temperature can be created? It has to be created indirectly. So, for that purpose, throughout the outside wall of the coke oven, the flues are cut. Flues, in fact, they are the flow passage for the flow of the hot gases. Now, could you get a clue how coke oven gets heated up? So, towards the outside wall, the flues are cut and into the flues the hot gases flow. And in order to create the hot gases, you have to burn air and some fuel at some location, and that location has to be connected to the coke oven chamber. The hot product gases will flow into the flue. The hot product gases may have the temperature of 14, 15 or even 1600 degrees Celsius. Flues will be heated up, and from the heat of the flue outside, the heat will flow inside, and through this mechanism the inside coke oven chamber gets heated up. So, that is where the refractory wall of the coke oven chamber and its thermal conductivity is also an important issue. The fuels which are used for the heating purpose, the blast furnace gas, producer gas, and coke oven gas. Now, into this combination, the blast furnace gas and producer gas are preheated to a certain temperature, whereas coke oven gas is not preheated, Do you know why? Coke oven gas, that means the gas which is coming from the coke oven. It has a very, as I already said, it has a very high amount of potential energy. It cannot be preheated, because if you preheat, then there is a methane, it will decompose, it will form carbon and hydrogen, and carbon will choke the flow passage. So, that is where the coke oven gas is not preheated. As I said, the indirect heating is done. I write down, indirect heating is done, and the thermal conductivity of brick is also very important. So, now silica bricks are being used. So, now if we want to sketch the process of conversion of coal to coke, considering the chamber, heating part and byproduct recovery, then let us this particular sketch, it looks as follows. A huge plant, though I did not show the plant, it is a very huge plant of the byproduct recovery, is bigger than the coke oven plant, because so many byproducts are recovered, and mind you, the entire economy of production of coke from coal, a very large contribution is also from the byproduct recovery. So, you see several byproducts are produced, and some of the byproduct tar has a very high calorific value, it can be directly used in the blast furnace or somewhere else. Then large amount of ammonia is produced, from ammonia ammonium sulphate can be obtained, benzol and naphthalene, they are being obtained. Now, then this clean, here we are getting the clean coke oven gas. Clean coke oven gas is transferred to the coke oven plant for heating purposes. Now, if surplus coke oven gas, it is being discharged and used for somewhere else. Now, in addition to this, you see A and B, they are the regenerators. Now, the function of regenerator is to preheat the air and the fuel gas other than coke oven gas. So, there are two regenerators are used. So, they are used in cycle. So, there is a C is a reversal valve. So, if a regenerator heats the air and another one heats the burnt gas or fuel gas. So, here this is the air and this is the burnt gas. So, alternatively one heats the air, another burnt gas, another is the air. So, they are used alternatively, and the products of combustion, they are put to the flue which you cut into the coke oven chamber. So, that is how a byproduct coke oven plant it looks. Now, the byproduct recovery, say cooling of the gas is cooled, cooling of gas to recover tar and ammonia liquors, Then electrostatic separation, of tar in order to remove the coal or dust particle. Then recovery of ammonia as ammonium sulphate, which is sold to the market. Then gas is washed to recover naphthalene and benzol. Then desulfurization of gas, with moist ferric oxide. and then ultimately it goes for distribution of this fuel gas to the consumers. So, you see, a byproduct plant or the byproduct recovery plant is also considerable in size, and we try to recover as much possible from the coke oven gas. Now, say this hot coke which is produced, it also has, as I said, a large amount of sensible heat. So, wet quenching, can you imagine, large amount of water is used for quenching and large amount of pollution is also being created, water is being spoiled and so on and so forth. So, now this wet quenching is gradually replaced by the so called inert gas quenching. Inert gas quenching. So, these are the two methods that are used to quench the coke from 1200 to 25 for storage purposes. Now, as you know, this coke making is associated with highly pollution. So, I can say the coke making is highly polluted one. So, several pollutions which are there, several type of pollution, say the process emits, for example, particulate matter which is highly detrimental to the health. Then they also emit volatile organic compounds. Volatile organic compounds. Then they also emit polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbon. Well, methane, then ammonia, carbon monoxide, H2S, HCN and SOX. Several modifications took place over the years in order to reduce the pollution. So, some of the developments, say one development is say washing of coal. To reduce the ash content of the coal. Then blending of coal. Blending of coal, that means coal of different qualities can be blended, and this is also being one of the development. Then third is the use of formed coke. Use of formed coke. Now, in the formed coke is made from low rank, highly volatile non-coking coal. It is carbonized up to 500 degrees Celsius, that low quality coal. Char is obtained and that is mixed with the high quality coal, and then it is used for production of the coke. Another important development which really took place is the dry quenching. Now, this is a very important development. It is a dry quenching, and the gases, hot gases which are produced, they are taken into the boiler or to reuse the energy which is obtained by cooling of the coke. Then another development is the so called stemp charging. Now, in the stemp charging, mechanically pressed coal is used for conversion to coke. Now, let me tell you here certain important physical chemical properties of coke. Important physical and chemical properties of coke. Now, mind you, the coke or the high quality of coke is used in the blast furnace. Blast furnace is the main and principal user of the coke which is produced at high temperature. And for that purpose, the coke which is produced, it must satisfy the following properties. First, ash and moisture content. Ash and moisture content. Whatever amount of ash in the coal, it will be transferred to the ash. And that coke used, for example, in the blast furnace, ash has to be removed, and ash is removed in the form of liquid, that is the slag. So, higher is the amount of ash, higher will be the amount of slag, and accordingly the productivity and the functioning of the blast furnace will be influenced. So, for that purpose, that is very important. Now, also here the wet quenching is not desirable, because during wet quenching coke absorbs moisture. So, even 1% H2O in the coke, that will increase fuel consumption by around 1.2%. So, here the dry quenching is desired. Dry quenching is desirable, because dry quenching, there is no moisture will be there in the coke, and as such it is good. Second important property that it has, density and porosity. Density and porosity. Now, in blast furnace, high strength coke is desirable. If the coke has high strength, then naturally its density will also be high. So, complete devolatilization of coal leads to density of coke approaching that of graphite. That is, if you devolatilize completely, then its density will approach to graphite. Now, since coal contains hydrogen and mineral matter, so density of coke cannot reach to that of graphite. So, what is required for a coke which can be used in the blast furnace, it should have high strength. Though high strength you are sacrificing with the reactivity, but the strength of the coke is more important as compared to its reactivity, because as I said in the beginning, coke is the only component of the burden that imparts permeability during the downward movement of burden in the blast furnace, because coke is also only component of the burden which remains unchanged till it comes down to the 2-year level. Iron ore and limestone, they react and they change, and accordingly the permeability is mainly influenced by the coke, because coke reacts only at the 2-year level, and from there the appearance of the coke vanishes. So, that is why the strength of the coke is more important as compared to reactivity. Third, hardness and strength. Hardness and strength. This is required, say, resistance to impact breakage, resistance of coke to impact breakage, because the coke is falling from a 0 height in the blast furnace from the top. Before it comes at the 2-year level, it has already travelled around 15 to 20 meter of height. So, it is falling under the gravity, it has to sustain the upward flow movement of the gases. So, it has to have a high strength, it has to have a high strength so that it does not break during the impact. So, for that purpose shatter index or shatter test is being done in order to have whether it is suitable for blast furnace feed or not. Then fourth important thing is the reactivity of coke. Reactivity of coke. Now, for the reactivity, coke should be porous, so that the oxidizing component of air, it can diffuse and the carbon can react. But well, porosity, more porosity is good from reactivity point of view, but from the strength point of view it is not good. So, an optimum has to be reached, because the most important part of the coke is the strength. That is the most important part. If it breaks during its downward movement, then it will affect the permeability, and whole smooth functioning of the blast furnace will be influenced. So, the strength is more important. Of course, reactivity is also important, but well, one has to compromise over here. Fifth important thing is the phosphorus and sulfur content. Whatever elements that are there in the coal, after reacting the same will be transferred in the coke. So, if the coal contains ash, entire amount of ash will also be transferred into the coke, because ash is not removed at all. So, whatever elements which are there in the ash, say it may have sometimes sulfur also, sulfur containing, then all the sulfur and phosphorus will also be transferred into the coke, and as such the processing of hot metal in the blast furnace will be influenced. So, control of sulfur and phosphorus is also not only desirable, but is very important. And sixth important point is the ash. As I have already said about the ash content should be as minimum as possible, because increase in the ash content will increase the volume of the slag, and accordingly productivity will be affected. So, if you want to go further details, you can look down the book of O.P. Gupta, Elements of Fuels, Furnaces and Refractories. So, fuels, furnaces and refractories, Khanna Publications. The editions which I have seen is 1997. So, in the next lecture we will be doing material balance of coke oven.